All right, buckle up, guys, because this is the kind of insanity that just cannot be ignored. So while President Biden threatens our freedoms with every disastrous move that he makes and the deep state cronies plot behind closed doors, Trump is gearing up to expose these frauds and clean up their mess. And he hasn't even stepped foot back in the Oval Office yet. So, folks, Biden and his corrupt cabinet members, they're making a mockery of Inauguration Day, pushing the country toward bankruptcy with their reckless policies. And don't even get me started on their communist level abuses of power. We got whispers already of martial law being considered, lawmakers sweating, and the nation teetering on the brink, guys. Freaking martial law? Does Biden even care? Nope. He just hides behind closed doors and he dodges questions. We've all seen what Kamala Harris has done, right? Meanwhile, Trump is making bold moves preparing to defend the American people against these tyrants. Every announcement from this camp has the deep state panicking. They know their days are numbered. Mark my words, guys, we're one cabinet meeting away from Biden and his buddies pulling some desperate last-minute threat against democracy itself. But Trump is ready. He's coming back to call out these cowards and take action. Are you guys ready for this? Because if we've learned anything, is that Biden can't handle the heat, and the breaking news of the day, it just proves how much we need Trump back in charge to end this chaos once and for all. Demanding Hamas release these hostages before his inauguration on January 20th. Now, seriously, guys, this was straight up badass. Check this out.
President-elect Trump wants a ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza before Inauguration Day. Writing on Truth Social, please let this truth serve to represent that if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as President of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East. John, what could that hell look like? And why hasn't President Biden unleashed that same hell over the course of the last 14 months to get those hostages home?
Well, that's the question, Todd, is that, look, that's the power of the United States. But what you need is you need a leader like President Trump. Look, he basically bankrupted Iran by taking the fight to them, killing Soleimani, and they had putting sanctions on them where they were only $7 billion in cash reserves right before President Trump left office. Guess what? Now they have over $80 billion of cash reserves under President Biden. So all of the Middle East is laughing at the Biden leadership. And so, look, this is President Trump putting it in all caps. Do you remember back in 1980 when Ronald Reagan said the same thing to the Iranians with our hostages over there? He said, don't wait until I come into office because you're not going to like it. This is the same thing, yet it's on steroids with President Trump because people have seen him 4 years ago and the way he acts in the Middle East, and he's going to bring it right back to them.
Now, by the way, guys, that was former President Donald Trump National Security Aide John Ullott. He's just spitting facts about our president-elect, that basically Trump gets things done while dealing with his enemies, both external and internal. Now, seriously, guys, January 20th just cannot come soon enough. We're finally going to have a real president again. Thank goodness, because President Biden, even his Senate attack dog Schumer, could not defend his latest stunt, pardoning his son Hunter. Here, watch this.
Do you agree with some of your Democratic colleagues who say that President Biden's pardon of Hunter Biden was wrong, unwise, was personal interest ahead of duty?
I got nothing for you on that. As I said, I got nothing for you on that.
Are you concerned that pardoning anyone on the way out of office, family members, sets a poor precedent?
Thank you. I've got nothing for you on that. Got nothing for you on that. Any other subjects?
You see what I'm talking about? And did you see Chuck Schumer's smug smirk on his face? Straight up downright disrespectful is what my uncle called it. I mean, if Trump had pardoned his son and Schumer was asked to comment, does anybody think that he would have no comment? It's no wonder people are sick and tired of career politicians. In fact, our president-elect Trump commented on the Hunter Biden pardon. He said on Truth Social, does the pardon include the January 6 hostages who now have been in prison for years? He called it an abuse and miscarriage of justice. Now, seriously, could the Democratic Party be any more out of touch? Because House Democrats also made headlines recently when they posted their tone-deaf take on people's finances. You see, their account Ways and Means Democrats shared a headline saying that Americans spent around a record $10.8 billion on Black Friday. And you know what they said? That Here they were thinking y'all couldn't afford eggs. You can imagine how well that went over social media. In fact, they quickly took down that post. But the West Wing report tweeted a very similar thing, saying that people claiming that the economy is getting worse is basically just Pollyanna's whining. Seriously? These Democrats just cannot help themselves, can they? More on that later. But first, let's talk about the headline-making news that's coming out of South Korea. Now, apparently, South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol tried pulling a fast one by declaring martial law, but couldn't quite make it stick after the country's lawmakers. Even their citizens weren't having it because shortly after Yoon made this announcement, people started gathering outside the parliament building and shouting to withdraw emergency martial law. Under South Korean law, the president must lift martial law if the parliament demands it with a majority vote. And unsurprisingly, all 190 lawmakers who participated in the vote supported the lifting of martial law. There was even television footage showing soldiers who had been stationed at parliament leaving the site after the vote. Of course, our own officials were also alerted by the whole thing. Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Pat Ryder said Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin was monitoring the situation and that U.S. forces were in close contact with their South Korean counterparts. And as for the 28,000 U.S. service members stationed in the country, Ryder said that they were not aware of any changes to any force posture for them. Now, I'm personally watching this very closely just in case any of our current Democratic officials decide to make a last-minute power grab. You know what I mean? I mean, like with the way that President Joe Biden just basically abused his power by pardoning his son Hunter Biden, I really wouldn't be too surprised if something like this was actually going to be his next move. You know what I mean, guys? Because I could seriously see them doing something like what South Korean President Yoon did, saying that he had no choice but to take drastic measures to protect South Korea's freedoms and the constitutional order. Doesn't it sound like what Democrats call Trump and his supporters threats to democracy? Not to mention, those in opposition have repeatedly fought back Yoon's agenda, and the president has had low approval ratings. You see, just like Biden and Harris, just like those guys, and like President Yoon demonstrated, desperate people are dangerous people. So we definitely got to keep an eye out, you guys. Drop a quick yes in the comments down below. Hit the like button to show your support for the message that we are sending out here and the work that we do here on the channel. Now, speaking of, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. That way you don't miss out on our latest updates on President-elect Trump and the people trying to take him down on a daily basis. Now, seriously, guys, they're always up to something, so we have to stay vigilant, you guys. Now, let's continue with this one. Now, just to further show you guys the difference between our two presidents, Trump is already issuing tough warnings before even taking office. He said to Hamas on Truth Social, if the hostages are not released prior to January 20th, 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as president of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East. And for those in charge who perpetrated those atrocities against humanity. He also threw shade at the current administration, saying that everybody is talking about the hostages who are being held so violently, inhumanely, and against the will of the entire world in the Middle East, but it's all talk and no action. I mean, where's the lie though, right? I mean, it's been more than 2 years since war broke out in the Middle East, and Hamas is still holding on to 101 hostages, including 7 Americans. The White House and Israeli government has worked for months to try and secure a hostage release deal, but they've always been unsuccessful. What has President Joe Biden said on the subject? Just don't. Literally, guys, that's all he said. Don't. After the war began last year, Biden, he delivered remarks from Israel where he warned adversaries of Israel and the U.S. don't attack Israel. What happened? War still happened, including from Iranian proxies against Israel. This year, Biden doubled down on his warning of don't aimed at Iran. And when asked by reporters about Iran's expectation to attack Israel in April, he said his message to Tehran is don't. And as recent as August, Biden again warned Iran against attacking Israel with one-word threats. Well, as Senator Lindsey Graham put it, every time he says don't, they do. Maybe it's all they can let him remember at this point. Just one word, don't. I mean, even Israel can't wait for Trump to step back in. President Isaac Herzog of Israel, he said thank you, and the nation's finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, added how refreshing it is to hear clear and morally sound statements that do not create a false equivalence or call for addressing both sides. He said that this is the way to bring back the hostages by increasing the pressure and the cost for Hamas and its supporters and defeating them rather than giving in to their absurd demands. Now, as the Trump War Room described it, America's enemies are concerned, they're nervous, and they ought to be. Promises kept, and President Trump hasn't even been inaugurated yet. Like I said, guys, the two presidents could not be any more different. Meanwhile, House Democrats are making their own horrible headlines on social media. Now, I showed it to you guys earlier. The now deleted post from the Ways and Means Democrats account suggesting the economy is strong and seemingly minimizing the struggles of those who have difficulty affording groceries. You read it as well, basically making fun of Americans who can't afford eggs and calling people who complain Pollyannas, this super cheerful book character from a 1913 novel. Really, more important here is the backlash that their tweet rightfully sparked from conservatives on social media. Abigail Jackson, communications director for Republican Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, called it an embarrassing thing to post. Conservative commentator Amanda Head also offered her take, saying that this is really what Democratic staffers on Capitol Hill think of the American majority, who just rejected their policies after causing the worst inflation crisis our country has seen. Now again, for Head, this is just how out of touch Democrats are. I mean, did you know just how much their presidential candidate spent on celebrities? According to their latest FEC filings, the Harris campaign gave two $250,000 donations to Reverend Al Sharpton's nonprofit organization in September and October. Now, if you guys remember, Harris sat down for a very friendly interview with MSNBC host on October 20th, in which he asked her what she wanted her legacy to be 50 years from now. It's not just him. The campaign also gave a $350,000 payment to New Vision Media on September 9th. New Vision Media is a media company run by journalist Roland Martin. Martin spent roughly 30 minutes interviewing Kamala Harris on his streaming program in October. The Harris campaign gave $5.4 million to Black and Latino advocacy groups, apparently to add more of these voters to her coalition, all part of her campaign's ridiculous $1.5 billion spending spree. Meanwhile, you have their current commander-in-chief Biden issuing one of the most sweeping pardons in recent history to his son Hunter Biden. Critics are saying that it's also covering up the president's involvement in his family's foreign dealings. Now, let's not forget the real story here, guys, because Biden's role in his son and his brother's overseas ventures, they even brought on an impeachment inquiry against the president and illegal foreign lobbying claims against both father and son, in addition to the tax fraud and the gun charges against Hunter. Needless to say, guys, the pardon is one of the most controversial in U.S. history, with even fellow Democrats blasting it. They're comparing it to President Bill Clinton's pardon of fugitive donor Mark Rich and President Gerald Ford's pardon of his predecessor and former boss, President Richard Nixon. I mean, how many times did Biden assure the American people that he would not pardon Hunter? Then, much like most of his campaign promises, he went back on his word and granted his son federal legal immunity for any and all crimes committed in an 11-year window from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. Just kind of makes you wonder, what happened in that 11th year, huh? Let me know what your thoughts are on this one, guys. Are you guys excited to get rid of the Democrats' depravity that's infected Washington, D.C. for these last 4 years? Just drop a quick yes in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for more updates like this sent straight to your screens. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you know, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system is just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor, just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. I mean, but this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax or a tax on the poor. I mean, I'm now at a point where, you know, like Number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. And we also have other great, amazing videos on the channel for you guys to check out. You got to check them out right after this one. Now, I highly recommend you check out our recent upload where Kevin O'Leary, Shark Tank millionaire, tears into Kamala Harris and puts Democrats in their place. For real, guys. We got the clip for you guys. Be sure to check that one out right after this one. As always, thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. Check out this video coming up here next or our playlist down below, and we'll see you guys on the next one.